I think we're reaching the end of an era in gaming. Let's talk about it. Now, before I get too deep into this video, I want to say this is not a negative or a clickbait video, and I'll just get right into it. So, if you're a gamer, you would have to have been under a rock to not see all of the games that Microsoft or Xbox is putting on other platforms. When this first started to happen, there were a lot of people kind of up in arms. And I wouldn't say I was up in arms, but I was confused. Microsoft had or has an issue when it comes to messaging. And every time Phil Spencer is kind of put in, not the hot seat, but whenever he's on someone's podcast, on someone's interview, he says he wants to win when it comes to the competition between them and Sony. I don't really think they factor Nintendo much into this conversation, but he would say that and then put more and more games on other consoles. Now, I know this is not 100% his call. I know Satya Nadella and people from above are pushing the Xbox team to do things like this. And really at this point, I'm starting to agree that it just makes sense. I've said a ton of times before in different videos that the cost of creating a game has just gotten way too big. Like a game, a AAA game, I don't know how many years ago, used to cost maybe, you can go anywhere from a couple million to maybe like 20 million. That same game today, with the increase of salaries and scope and things of that nature, is now like 200 million. So putting a game just on one console may not make sense. Now, one thing I want to say, I listened to a lot of gaming podcasts, and there were a lot of people who would say that games were always on all of the consoles, and that's not true. So if we go back, of course, starting with the Sega and the Nintendo, it's kind of when mascots really started. So we always had Sonic on Sega, and we always had Mario on the Nintendo. They were kind of the representatives of those communities. Now, we did have things like Mortal Kombat and things on all consoles, and with a few little tweaks here and there. But once I think Xbox entered the conversation, that's when I would say the console wars truly started. And we had more, we had a new entry, so we had Master Chief, we still had Mario. Of course, by this time, Sega had gone multi-plat and had no longer had any consoles. On the PlayStation side, we had like Jak and Daxter. Actually, they had a ton of exclusive games. They were kind of known to be the console where you played your JRPGs. You had, if we go a little bit further forward, you had your Nathan Drakes with Uncharted, and before Microsoft bought Ninja Theory, you had Hellblade, and I'm blanking on the other game. I'll put up some B-roll of their, I wouldn't say it was their first game, but I'll put that up on the screen. But yeah, so that is clearly not true that games had always been everywhere before this current console generation. Now, like I said, I don't think this is a bad thing. I already talked about how much games are costing. I do think that when it comes to that competition, Microsoft has finally dropped out of the console wars, and they're moving more towards services. You will hear many people say that Microsoft was always a software and a service company, and Sony or PlayStation was always the gaming and tech company. And yeah, I think that's true. And I think putting certain games on other consoles, and I think eventually will be all games on certain consoles, on other consoles, is the way of the future. Now, I think Nintendo is a special case. I don't think we will, at least not in the near future, ever see a Nintendo game, a Nintendo published game on another console. I mean, we've already seen it a little bit with PlayStation, with the show. I think we're in 2025 now, so I actually think they said that this year it will still be on Xbox, but it won't be on Game Pass. So that's something new from their side. But yeah, I think moves like this, I think we're just entering a new era of gaming, and I think Microsoft in the last few years has been the leader in pushing the gaming community forward when it comes to certain things. They forced the hands of others when it came to crossplay, and I think now they're kind of forcing that hand when it comes to putting games on PC. I think Sony will always meet some of these things with a little resistance, but I can't say we won't see a future where we see some big PlayStation franchises on Xbox. Now, I know this video was a little bit longer than some of my other ones, but this has been on my mind for a little bit. And I know we have some console warriors and some fanboys, and I would say to a certain extent, I am still an Xbox fan. I do play on everything. You kind of see my PS5 right here. That's my Series X, and then we have my Switch right here, and then of course we have PC here. But I am an Xbox fan. So kind of let me know what you all think in the comments below. Let's try to keep it civil, and yeah, I'll see you next time.